Hello, I'm Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying. Here at one of my favorite spots, the barbershop, where we know if you're gonna complain here, then you better provide solutions.
Good.
It's good. I firmly believe when we make other people's problems part of our conversations without providing solutions or prayer, then we become part of the problem. I want to be able to provide people with a platform where they can freely express their views on such topics as education, social issues, health and fitness. Now that's good. Or sports. So please join me so we can complain and provide solutions together.
Hey, what's up, peeps? This is your man, Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying, where you're going to complain, be ready to bring solutions to the table. Now, I had planned on being out in the garage, but they were calling for thunderstorms, so I'm in the kitchen. Y'all really can't see it. But welcome to season 7, episode 17. And I have a very special guest. But before I get into that, I just want to let everybody know that my opinions are my opinions, and the views that I express are not the views shared by my guest. In addition, that I've sent out every registered commissioner candidate and Board of Education candidate has received an email to come on my free show. I don't get paid for this. This is what I do to get back to the community. Some are accepted, some are respectfully declined, some I haven't heard from. But what I will tell you is that I believe it's next week, I'm gonna make my own personal picks, my picks, not like it's a game changer, but I'm gonna make my own personal picks on the commissioners and the delegates. I'm not gonna do the Board of Education only because they have a primary. And it's not, and when they carry over the general, it's not necessarily guaranteed they're going to win. And we just have to look at our political makeup. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My voter education series, and my special guest today is current Commissioner, District 2, Thomasina Coates. I'm going to give her a couple seconds to come in. And we're dealing with technology, so she should be coming in right about now.
Hi, hello. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Commissioner Coates?
I'm doing well today.
Hey, hey, you do exist. I will say that.
I do. I'm here in the flesh. Yes, I mean, here I am. A busy woman, but here I am.
Hey, we gonna get straight to it. But before we get straight to it, how's everything going? Family and all that?
Family doing good. We're always surviving COVID, staying COVID free thus far, but went through a bout of it. But hey, we're healthy and well now.
Okay. All right. So before we really get into the questions, could you tell us about Thomasina Sina Coates, not the commissioner, the volunteer and all that, Thomasina Coates?
All righty. I'm just Thomasina Coates. That's who I am. I'm actually a native in Charles County. I'm born and raised here in Charles County. I have deep ties in this county, a lot of family, community, friends, as well as my husband's family is from this community, from this county as well. 2 children, 2 grandchildren, lovely grandchildren at that precious age, but they're a lot of fun. But I was a graduate. I went to public school here. I graduated from public school from preschool, starting Head Start, all the way through 12th grade. So was my children, my husband's family, himself, and my grandchildren. So we're all a product of this Charles County school system. And so it was great. Charles County is good to us. And we both are, we've lived here. And we bought homes, we own property. So, and we're just glad to be residents of this county that has come a long way. Got a lot to go, a lot more to go, but it's come a long way and it's getting there.
Okay. And what I always tell candidates that come on, I'm always fascinated by the similarities that we have as far as, I don't have grandchildren, but I have children. And I don't have grandchildren. I hope my daughter's watching. I don't have grandchildren. Let her know that.
All right, don't pressure her to come pop
And,
up.
no,
They
I
with
want
me
one
and
right
with
now.
you.
No, she don't need none right now.
Right.
And not a native Charles County, but I've been, my family, we've been here since 2006. So during that time, I've seen the changes. Really prior to 2006, when I was in the Maryland Army National Guard, we would go to AP Hill and we would always come up 301. Only thing I saw exciting was a McDonald's on the left and McDonald's on the right. And I thanked them all. That's pretty much all I saw. But you know, since then, I can see how it's grown as far as residential.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a lot of family ties here, but I over the years, I've developed some friendship ties, which, you know, and some I consider family. And, you know, it's been a good place. Yeah,
Thank you very much. I consider you family too.
and it's definitely been a good place. I compared to places that I've grown up and where I've been at, you know, I still love those places, but people don't realize to a degree how good they have it until they go to other areas where it isn't that good. And that's one of the things I learned through the military and just travel. So definitely appreciate you sharing a little bit about you, the person. So we're gonna get into it. I know you're not a big follower of social media, but you know, as I'm looking at people put comments down and all this other stuff, I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, they talking about the same person that I know. So I want to address a couple things from the naysayers and just let you address it any way you want to address it. I'm not here to say, you know what, you're wrong. You can address it any way you want to address it, and then we're gonna move on. First thing, I've heard where people say they have a milk carton and they say you're missing, you're a no-show, or a lack of attendance at board meetings. Address it any way you want to address it.
Oh, Derek, let me say this, okay? You know, the thing is this. When someone is talking about a commissioner not showing up, they're not talking about this commissioner at all. And they really, really need to really do their research and homework and look at what is really going on, where the commissioner is. If I'm somewhere you're not, then more than likely it's probably somewhere you should be. and because that's what I do. It's a service. I'm at a lot of places. I'm one individual. We have 168,000 citizens here. Do I get a lot of calls? Absolutely. Do I respond to every single one of them? Most of the time I do, pretty much I do. And this is why we also have staff that helps us to respond. And I'm aware of everyone that reaches out to me. You know, when the thing is this, if someone says that or address that to someone that even knows or don't know me, they should really ask some questions. And they should say, so where are you? What are you doing? If you can point out things that other people aren't doing, then that shows where you need to show substance of what you're doing. Show your merit. Do what you do. Show what merit you have and where you are and where you show up in this county. So I would say that to folks that say that. But I do want to say this. I have some wise old grandparents. I did. My grandparents have passed. But before they passed, these are some of the things that they would tell me. They would say lies never hold up and the truth will always prevail. When one attempts to discredit another for their own selfish gain, they simply don't have much substance of their own, and they simply jeopardize their own credibility and integrity. Give them a little time and they will self-destruct. So that's, you know, I've always taken those statements with me. And again, I don't need to sit here and say what other people aren't doing and what they're not. What am I doing? Okay. And, you know, we talked before, I don't waste my time on foolishness. Just because you don't see me on social media, it does not mean that I'm not working. I would love to be able to just take photos, sit there and take photos. If I'm taking photos with any and everybody, I'm not working. That's not called work. That's just called taking photos, being a photo op or a prop.
And they're
That's
taking,
not
and it's not like you're staging, they're taking the photos. There's a
right.
difference between stage photos and
Right.
you just happen to be somewhere and someone's taking the photo.
Taking a photo, absolutely. And they'll say, give me your camera, take a photo. I don't even think about photo opping because I'm there to provide a service and be of service to my community wherever they are.
So
And this
which kind of, I guess the next thing is, is when people talk about canceled town halls. So in my opinion, when someone cancels town hall, I think they're doing it for a reason. I don't, there really has to, I don't think, well, you know what, I'm gonna cancel because I don't want to meet with my constituents. So I don't know how many canceled town halls you've had, but do you want to briefly talk about the canceled town halls?
This is another really petty topic, and yes, I'd like to address it. First and foremost, what I do want to say is this. If anyone is running for office, let me make a recommendation, because this is what I did. I recommend that whatever office you're seeking, research the job, know what that job entails, and shadow someone. I had 2 fellow commissioners that I was able to shadow, and really, really, it was so helpful. For 8 years, I shadowed them. So 8 years before I went into this job, I knew what I was getting into. I knew what the dynamics of the community was. And so, and I want to address town halls. I've had several town halls, including during the pandemic. And if you were there, you would know that I had town halls. If you weren't, that's because you weren't present. A cancellation of a town hall, I don't know what he say, she said, I don't know what is going on now, what that meaning is, or why they think that that's a issue. The cancellation was out of due respect for my community. I have community citizens that wanted to attend, but one was not unable to, and out of respect of them wanting to attend their children's award ceremony, I said, no problem. I will cancel. I will then postpone it for another day. So we are now we're in the midst of actually, and as you know, when you reschedule a town hall, you need to give staff time to location, time, setup, advertisement. So it's not like it's an easy process to cancel and then reschedule immediately, because it takes time. You're muted.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to make it seem like you just post it on Facebook and boom, it's there. And even with this, I still have to coordinate with people's schedules,
right?
Look at my schedule. And I've had some where I've had to cancel because of scheduling. Now, the next one is, I don't really think this is going to take too long, this particular one, because I'm like this. I'm going to respect you, but you're not going to disrespect me.
It's absolutely correct.
So block people from your personal page. Let me say this again, people. Block people from your personal page. That should be real simple. It's your personal page.
It is my personal page. Again, I am not a social media. I'm not on social media because, again, if I'm on social media, that means that I'm not doing my job. And if I have to spend more time on social media than working, then that should say a lot for who you are. So blocking people on social media. I have a team of people who watch my social media, and I have a team of people who think, who generally know that I'm a person that demand respect, because I respect everybody else as well. When you decided that you want to be disrespectful, I don't have time. I don't have the time of day. I don't have energy or time to put into any disrespect. Zero. Okay. And anybody that knows me knows that. My team knows that, and they're not going to entertain that. I don't need people when they're saying, hey, ignore the haters. Well, haters for what? What are you talking about? Who are haters? You get to hate and you get to say whatever you want, but it won't be on my page. You won't be disrespecting me. And if you're a man and you're disrespecting a woman, what does that say about you as a man? Okay. And what does it say about you as a female disrespecting another female? Come on. You know how I am about disrespect. Zero tolerance with disrespect.
Yeah, and I can
Doesn't
agree.
cost a dime to respect anyone. Doesn't
Yeah.
cost not one dime.
I know there's been a couple times where I had to get real ethnic, but I try to respect people even when
Yeah.
they don't want to respect me.
Right.
And they have, and believe me, there are some candidates out here who block me. I don't know what I did because I keep receipts, but it is what it is. And then the last thing we want to get into with the naysayers, and I don't really want to go too much into it because when we get to your platform, I'm sure that you'll address it when they say you do little to nothing for District 2.
Okay.
I was kind of thrown by that because
yeah. Okay.
I'm now.
Yeah. It's like, where do you even start? Where do you start?
Well,
Okay.
you know what? I know where we can start. We can let's start with. Let me see. Let's start with economic development.
Right. Everything I do, okay, I represent District 2. And this is why it's important to know what type of government we are, code home rule government. It's important to know what type of form of government we have. We're voted at large. We're voted across the county. At any point, any citizen can contact me to say that they have something they want me to work on, or they have a discrepancy. Generally, we respect one another, try to pass it along to our constituents that are in, or my colleagues that are in representing that district. District 2 is near and dear to me. I live in District 2. I'm from District 2. I just didn't move to District 2. I grew up in District 2. I went to school in District 2. Okay. So there's nothing about, and I still live in District 2, raising my family in District 2. So there's nothing about District 2 that I won't go move mountains and hills to make sure that I do for District 2 residents. So speaking of economic development, let's talk about that. I co-chair a task force advocating for services and grant opportunities for businesses, nonprofits to spur economic development, and particularly in District 2. I have communications with the owner of the shopping center about what we can do to help from the county government perspective. It is a privately owned piece of property, so we have to be careful because I cannot just walk on privately owned property.
Yeah, because I've heard, whether it's other candidates or citizens talk about that. I'm thinking to myself, this is like private. I don't really know what the government can do. And I could be wrong.
Yep.
But some of the suggestions that I heard was having the government be involved in the grocery store business. I don't know, at least in the state of Maryland, where that happens. Now I know where they may own a building, like in Baltimore, Lexington Market. Right. But guess what? The city ain't going there buying the food and putting it in there. All they're doing is leasing the space.
That's exactly right.
I know you're somewhat limited in what you can do, but I want to throw that out there because they did have a forum last week. I know you had a Westmore event.
Yep.
And
that was so let me address that. That event was previously planned before the chair of the Central Committee planned that date for that forum. I asked him, please, I have a date. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and go through with it. He did. Unfortunately, that's not something, when I plan something a month in advance like that, it's very difficult for a change because you got other people involved with when you have Westmore talked about his schedule, you have Cindy Horns talking about his schedule.
Who's running for governor?
Who's running for governor, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And when you have these people scheduled for an event to come, it's not a matter of, oh, gee, you know what? Let me just go ahead and shove them aside and come to here. When the chair knew that this forum, that I had that plan already prior to this forum, it was just not, I didn't want to come. I didn't no-show or looking at chairs and say, oh, my commissioner's not here.
You were co-sponsoring an event that people said was a fundraiser.
It was actually a meet and greet.
And I'm thinking to myself, if it was a fundraiser, it was a silent one because nobody ever asked me for any money.
No, it was not a fundraiser at all. It was a meet and greet for the Westmore candidate, whom I endorsed, proudly endorsed for governor. So it was a meet and greet that was planned way ahead of time, probably months ahead of time. This was not. This was a very sudden date and sudden event that occurred, forum that occurred. So I just want to address that.
And then for those who are saying, well, you know, why would you? Because I went to both places.
Yeah, exactly.
I said Westmore's the first candidate, and it's a lot like it's a deal breaker, but or a game changer. He's the first candidate that I have endorsed.
Thank you so much.
He's my frat brother, A5.
Yay!
But I've spoken with him, and you always have, like with anybody, you have to look at the pros and cons, and no one's going to be 100%, just not.
Right.
But that's where I'm at with that. Anything
you gotta hear him speak. And I'm telling you, if he doesn't win you over, when you hear his story and him speak, right? I'm just your audience. They got it. You gotta listen, because he's got that personable. He is that person. He's like the homeboy. He's like there. He's in your feels like he's in your home.
Yeah, he's not on that CT level yet, but he's close.
CT, yeah, CT. Yeah, CT did it. Yeah, he said CT came with it. So,
is there anything else you want to touch on economic development?
So when we did speak about, when you talk about the grocery store, public owned grocery store, what we do is that you don't want the county government spending your tax dollars buying stores and grocery stores, okay? Because first of all, what we know about grocery stores, I work very closely with economic development department. What we know about grocery store right now, they're not the best investment in funds and money. Okay.
Nor do they make at least what I remember from my marketing class, grocery stores may make 1% to 3% profit.
Yep. Yeah. And if we stop patronizing them, they make zero profit, can't keep the lights on, can't keep the doors open. And this is why it's important. And I tell the community all the time, don't stop patronizing, collaborate, come together, go to the store, speak with management and say, hey, you know what? We want this type of quality. We want this type of food. And if you do, we will continue patronizing. We will patronize you. Do not say, I'm going to go up the street to Accokeek, Virginia, because what's that going to happen? They can't keep the doors open if you're not spending your money. Yeah, so the same thing with the Food Line. I'm saying Food Line has a little bit more of an advantage because they own the property. But with Food Line, if you stop going to Food Line, that grocery store is not going to stay there.
Well, I think with any establishment, if you don't go there, except for these furniture stores, I don't know how they still exist, but they do.
They buy a lot of stock, low inventory with low cost.
But
that's how they do it.
All right, so as we're talking about economic development, the quality of life. So with economic development, it is to a degree, it's going to enrich or enhance quality of life. So what are some things that you've worked on or would like to continue to work on in regards to quality of life when we talk about social justice or improving the lives of everybody?
Yeah, so part of the quality of life, and I'm going to speak about economic development too, and then segue into some of the initiatives that I led and called for quality of life. There's a disparity study, and that disparity study was led by myself and Commissioner Collins. We led the charge for that. We realized and recognized, and particularly I recognize because I'm from this county, the struggling families that needed some type of incentivized to be able to have contractors to come in, but also hire minority companies to work for them. And we didn't have that. So we had it was incentive, but it wasn't mandatory. It wasn't like a requirement. So it was kind of optional. So if a company comes in and they said, well, you know what? We can't find any minority companies, even though your set aside says 35% or 30%, we can't find any minority company. It was okay. So they were able still to get award contracts without that set aside. So the disparity study actually examined all of those areas of where we need some improvement. And most important was the improvement was in the area of contracting to minorities. And we kind of already knew that, but we required a disparity study to enforce those set asides. So now we can enforce them. Now we can say the set aside is going to be a certain percentage of dollar amount, and we can enforce, because if you don't hire minority subcontractors, contractors, then you can't do business. You're not going to do business. You're not going to get contracts if you don't, because we have them out there. It's not hard to find minority businesses. We have a lot of entrepreneurs. So I'm really happy that disparity study, and there's a lot more to it. I encourage everybody to read it.
Yeah, and that's also an issue on the state level too, as well as.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Not having enough representation.
Yeah.
I know that I kind of wish they would follow the formula of the federal government, because I don't know if it's each year, each fiscal year, but there's I wouldn't say a quota, well, yeah, called a quota, that they have to fit. It may be like 1 year more women minorities have to be hired. The next year it might be people with disabilities. 1 year it may be veterans, whatever it may be. But as it stands, we're in a minority majority county.
Yeah.
Is that right? I say that right?
Yeah, minority majority, yeah.
And we do have a large percentage of the contracts that are not awarded to those who look like us.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that you can't find anybody.
Right.
Anybody.
Right.
Exactly. So
right.
and that's not only helping District 2, but that's helping the county.
That's overall. That's overall. Yep. That's overall. And so what we're encouraging, if you're going to do business, and again, hopefully we will, I'm looking forward to implementing the recommendations from this disparity study. I know we have staff in the Economic Development Department working on what that overall plan is going to look like. So I am excited about it. And so we'll be able to provide insight and input, hopefully, when we see what that plan, because it needs to happen, and it needs to be done. You can't have a majority minority community and your contractual obligations don't represent the county, don't represent the community in which we live. That cannot happen. We cannot continue that.
So
absolutely.
The other thing I want to talk about, because of course I hear it, is that you're not dealing with the infrastructure. There's no broadband. And I don't remember the sense of urgency from the previous administrations with dealing with this. So what are you doing specifically in District 2? Because I think District 2 and parts of District 1 really are suffering when it comes to just basic internet service. What has been done during this administration to address that?
Absolutely. Right off the bat, I jumped right in, first day on the job. That's what I asked about. Hey, what about broadband? And this is pre-pandemic. So we had some kind of agreement with Comcast and Verizon. And in that agreement, it didn't really specify certain areas of the District 2. It wasn't soon that I started losing it, because I'm thinking like, wait a minute, why aren't you addressing this disparity in District 2? I basically called him everything but the Son of God to say that you are leaving out and this disparity is unacceptable. You don't have this and this. And anyway, I went through that whole spew. They didn't move them. They didn't really move them at all. And I was like, okay. So what we did was we formed a task force, a broadband task force. And I'm like, at any cost or whatever it takes, we need to get broadband in District 2. I don't care how it's done. There was a company that came in, they started it, realized that the cost was going to be astronomical. At that time, there wasn't any government subsidy. There wasn't any type of grant opportunities for broadband. It just didn't exist. It wasn't part of infrastructure. We met with our Congressman Hoyer and state and federal, attempting to make this a utility. They make it a utility like electric or telephones or anything like that, then it would be subject to some funding source. Okay, that was a long haul. We worked, and of course, we were moving, we were inching, and then comes the pandemic, and then we have a crisis, and then we realized that we saw the disparity fly all over the place, which we tried to hone in the beginning to close that disparity gap.
Yeah, and I think that is what a lot of people need to really understand, is that when you come into any office, you have objectives, you have a vision.
Yeah.
No one expected this,
right?
Including myself.
Right. Yep.
And you can't just instantly recover from it.
Nope, you cannot.
And now the demand is do this and do this and do this and do this. I said, we was in COVID for 2 years. So how long you can think it's good for us to get out of it?
Right.
What,
Exactly.
6 months, 3 months? I just don't
Right.
think a lot of people being realistic, and that's just me.
Right.
Because we're behind.
Right.
And I'm not sure how much more you want to touch on this, because when we talk about behind, now it brings us to the budget. But before we get to the budget, the constant yield tax decision, because that has been on people's minds, including
Right.
myself.
So Derek, what I want to do is this. What I do want to address is that for broadband, there's $19 million. We just got 2 more contracts with Comcast and Verizon. There's $19 million. We're covering over 60%.
That's a grant?
60, yeah, $19 million grant. Yep.
Okay.
60% of those underserved areas in the rural districts are being covered, but 60%. So
what about the 40%?
The 40%. So the 40%, of course, is going to require a little bit more funding. We knew that it was going to be a big funding task, and so we're taking a piece out of that pie every single day to try to get as much as we can. And the partnership is excellent, because initially they didn't want a partner. There was no interest in it. So, but also what I want to mention, Derek, is one more thing about broadband. I actually held a workshop, and what the broadband does, it actually runs the lines in ground into the easement, along the easement of people's property, of everybody's property, resident property. But what occur, and it has happened, it's been many generations of this, is that there comes to a halt. When it stops, and there are many reasons why a broadband installation will stop. One of them is because for the reason I held the workshop, was that the property are aired property. They're not deeded. You cannot go across a property and get easement rights to a property not deeded. In addition to not deeding for easement of broadband, we also determined that they're not deeded to receive services for housing, bathrooms, anything, nothing, because the property doesn't belong to the owner that is actually occupying the property. You cannot waltz on people's property. You cannot waltz on people's property and just say, I'm, as a government, going to just drop this. We're going to enter your
eminent
property.
domain. There's no
Right.
eminent
No,
domain.
we will not. And I told them, do not insert eminent domain, because that's called taking property.
Yeah.
Do not insert eminent domain.
I agree.
Get permission from folks. And if you don't get permission, then we need to find an alternative of getting them the services that they need.
So here's the question, because I just know people who go out there and they talk with these people. Mm-hmm. The people that are staying there, do they understand that they're not on the deed? And as much as they may want something, they can't get it, because I think they do. I guess they're renters, or it's a house has been passed down from family to family.
Family, right.
But no one, but they don't have the funds, well, actually, to transfer it over as far as the deed.
Right. So a lot of them know, they know. But if you got someone out there saying, oh my God, you live in such and such, we can do, let me say this, you cannot do anything on property that's not deeded. It's like me going on your house, telling you, waltzing in your house, I want your wall color change, I want this, I want to do this to your property, I'm gonna do anything I want. First of all, that builds a distrust with the county government. It builds distrust that even if we were to be able to get them to deed it properly and go across the line, they may not even allow us to do. We've had a couple of families that said, no, we don't trust government. You're going to take our land, so you're not going to put your easement in and get off of our property.
And we could get sued as a government, which
you
means
definitely can.
Us, the taxpayer, has to pay for something because somebody said, well, you should do it anyways. No,
you should.
We have to do things within the confines of the law.
Yes.
Because that's exactly okay. So I remember it from a couple of years ago, but now it makes a little bit more sense. Hopefully to the viewers and for those. And understand there's people passionate about this. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but it's a process. Yes, and there's a law in place.
Yeah, so it's a law.
And Commissioner Coates has just stated, now if she's wrong, prove us wrong, because it makes sense to me. Ain't nobody coming up in my house. I got the deed, so you're not coming up in here.
Right.
Do what you want to do, unless you speak with me.
Right. And if you don't have a deed, you can't enter that property because it's unlawful. It's called unlawful trespassing. And you can't enter you don't have, if someone is occupying the land, in a property and they're not the rightful deed owner, you know why I know this? Because my family's going through it right now. I have a cousin that's on aired property that we're trying to take it, have a house falling in on them and cannot do anything about it. Can't get money, loans, deed, grants. We can't do anything for him because the property is aired, is not deeded to him. We're helping him right now and get through that process. I held a workshop to help some families, and it was a free legal service to help families to get started. As we know, this is not a cheap process, and it's a long, arduous process. It is not something you're going to do overnight, because you got to go back 60 years to find that lineage to your family in order to properly deed it. And then God forbid, if you got 10, 20, 30 uncles over here, aunts over here, and everybody come forward and say, I want a piece of it. And therefore nothing's going to move on it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm definitely glad that you educated not only myself, but hopefully some people out there and some candidates.
Yeah, exactly.
On this process.
And I work with nonprofits. Derek, I work with the nonprofit community. I work with Lifestyle. I called Sandy. I said, Sandy, is there anyone that's in District 2 that's in need of service that you're unable to get to? Because their need of service is that they can provide certain things that the county government cannot, because we actually fund the nonprofits to perform these services.
Yeah, like food,
and she said,
water,
absolutely not. Yeah. She said, absolutely zero, not. Everybody that we have on our list is being serviced. And she said, if not, if you have somebody or somebody knows somebody, don't hold the information or exploit people just because you want to hold it. That's doing a disservice to that person. If you're holding it just to exploit somebody, or just to use it for some kind of political gain, do not hold that information. Give it to Lifestyles, give it to Department of Social Services, give it to Tri-County Action. They can then do certain things like put little portable water units in there to help them. So they can port it. They can do it because it's nothing stationary that requires someone to construct something or deed that doesn't require a deed. So they can put those in there.
I think one of the things before we move on, and just my recommendation for maybe, and y'all may actually be doing it, is see if there's some attorneys out there who would be willing to do some pro bono work to help them with this deed process.
Yeah, exactly. And I reach out there quite often. I have someone right now that's that I'm dealing with, and pro bono. I can tell you this: when it's pro bono, it's long. They have cases come first, and it might take years and years. I have one now that's pro bono. It's been a year since that there's correspondence between the person that needed the work is a reference to a road that need the work, and it's been a long time. It takes a long time for attorneys to get involved, and a lot of them, what I was told by legal and particularly external to county government, is that they do not want to take aired property because it's so involved and it's very costly, and majority of the people that need the deed or looking to be deeded cannot afford it, and average like $30,000. But there is some things that I actually had during the workshop had attorneys to tell people what they can start doing, like getting death certificates, getting birth certificates of families and grandparents, start getting these documents together. Okay. So it can help start facilitating what the aired and deeded properties.
Okay, so want to probably have about 15 minutes or so. So I want to talk about this constant yield tax decision, because I know that was a hot topic, and I'm in agreement with most that I honestly felt that it should have been lowered or commensurate with what's currently going on. But then the other part of me, being a fiscal conservative, is knowing, well, if you do that, we're going to lose money in the budget. So how did that play? Was the constant yield tax decision made before the budget or after the budget? I can't remember offhand.
So the constant yield has not changed. It's not changed for many years. What 12, 15, it'll be before I ever came on the board. It has not changed. The assessment is what changes through the state. The assessment through the state has changed. Where your property value is going up since 2008, since the crashing of the market. It's been going up and it's assessed. Okay, the assessment. Now, let me say what happens here. It's very difficult. Yes, you probably can say, well, you know what, change the constant yield. When we alter that budget in any way, shape, or form, and particularly since it hasn't been changed for years and years and years, even through I believe through the 2008, it has not changed. But when you alter the budget and you have the Maryland blueprint that's coming on board, you're not going to be able, you're going to make a decision. We can lower it, but in one way or another, these taxpayers are going to pay for it. So if you lower it, you're going to then be charged real property tax and income taxes to offset the budget for the Maryland blueprint and for the rest of county government. We only run county government off of 17% of our taxpayer dollars, 17%. The rest of it is in school and public safety. The majority of that budget is school public safety. We just fully funded the school system because in preparation for the Maryland blueprint, for teachers' raises, for pre-K, for college prep, all of this is all included in that Maryland
So that's
blueprint.
where they got that additional funding outside of what they
Absolutely,
actually.
absolutely.
That's what I was about to get to.
Absolutely.
Is how that came about. You know, well, I know how it came about.
We have to pay for it one way or the other. They're not. We cannot pay it. If we can't, then we're in. And then we have another issue. It's like, you know, it's like, wait a minute.
That's one reason why we're trying to, you know, hopefully with economic development,
with the public-private partnership,
and then bring up that commercial tax base.
Yep.
Where some people, well, this is a bedroom community. Well, guess what? You're gonna be sleeping on your bed and not your house,
right?
If we can't get no money in here, because right now we're paying for it.
So Derek, let me also talk about that. 50% of our properties in preservation. 50%. Hey, I love clean air, clean water. I love my woods, and I love it. But let me say, when you're only building off of 50% of a build, you need a 2%, approximately 2%, 1.5 to 2% every year to sustain just keeping the lights and the roads and buildings and all.
Why not get rid of, well, not get rid of, because you got to talk with private, get rid of the old stuff. Like when I look at Arlington, right? And Alexandria, they don't have any more space. Right. So what they do is tear down the old stuff, put up new. Where my cousin lives out in Alabama, literally people will buy an old house, tear that house down, and build a brand new one.
Okay, so we're going to talk about both of these. So if 50% of your property is in preservation, you have 50% to work with. But guess what? About 25%, maybe 30% already built in Waldorf. That leaves the other two development areas is La Plata and Bryan's Road. Okay, if you try to put conservation and preservation into those areas, then you're going to get down to zero. When you are not able to bring in any kind of rooftops, you don't bring commercial. Commercial don't come, we don't have tax dollars. We don't have tax dollars. Who is going to suffer from it?
Us.
Thank you. Your taxes will raise if you continue down this path. We have gotten, this is what we are in here for as far as economic 101. You got to figure out that we're here to make sure that development is at a premium. We're not trying to overdevelop. St. Charles was already done. So those who say, oh, commissioners allow St. Charles, that was done in 1970s, okay? Had nothing to do with this board, and we cannot stop it.
And I know there was one thing that, the commissioner in my district, one thing I did agree with was, and I can't remember the number, but they say there was a certain amount of single family homes. Mm-hmm. So cut that number to make townhomes, thus we reduce the amount of space. I think that's what the plan was. Basically lowered the number of homes. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But we know that wasn't going to be sustainable.
Right, exactly.
That was a temporary fix, almost like a moratorium. So what brings me to the other thing, and we talk about our growth and the 50%, we're talking about public safety. One of the conversations I recall having with the sheriff, who happens to be my friend for the other candidate, but was there's no matrix as far as how for teachers, there's a matrix for every student you have. I mean, for so many students, you have this teacher.
Mhm.
So right now, we don't have anything for so many people as far as our population. We have a deputy.
Right, right.
And we know that people want public safety, people want
Yep.
good education,
Yep.
facilities, people want infrastructure. There's a lot of wants that we want, but it costs money.
Exactly.
It costs money. So
Yep.
the question is, what are some things that we can do? Well, actually, you, the commissioners, can do to, and there's no instant fix. That's the thing about it, to deal with infrastructure and to deal with public safety, because it seems like people say, well, crime is going up and we can't drive. I know one of the things you have in place, and I agree with it, because I think you probably saw me when I went to the State House. We have this funding for the light rail. So look, that money could be used for something else. But guess what? You agree, disagree, you move on, it's in place. So what are we doing right now to deal with assisting the sheriff, well, I guess, quote unquote, with this high rise of crime and the infrastructure that we have to deal with, specifically in Waldorf, but also with Bryan's Road. I mean, District 2.
So I want to say this. In the life of the sheriff department, this has been the first time ever that this sheriff department has ever had a budget. The commissioner awarded him a budget of $107 million. First time ever, okay? $107 million to do as the sheriff choose to do. He is the policy maker. He is the decision maker. He can do whatever. It's nothing that the sheriff has not asked for that he has not gotten, including body cam, ready for them right now. We don't have to wait for 2025. He has to make the move to say, go. Again, there is nothing he has not requested for the safety of our community that he has not gotten. Okay, even Bryan's Road, we pay for a building there. The community was outpouring, crying about not having a sheriff present in the building. Again, not under the purview of the commissioner, under the purview of the sheriff department. He is his own policy maker. Can we kind of encourage him? Sure. We can say, can you put someone? You know what he said? Well, okay, fund me an administrator. We did. Everything he has asked for, he has gotten. So to say anything else that the commissioners don't, that is not true. It is totally untrue. He has 107, never in the history of his tenure, $107 million.
No, that's not what I said. What I said was a matrix to determine, basically, to get more deputies based on the population.
So that would be him, because he can formulate the matrix and say, upon this many people, this is how many deputies. He has the funding to do it. He has the funding to hire up as many deputies, quite a few deputies. I mean, not everything.
What about the ones, but as you hire, you have people that retire. So I'll give you an example.
So he has the funding for it.
No, if I'm asking for 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got 20 people retired and you give me money for 20, I'm at zero.
So he has, but then this is his request. He has to say, look, commissioners, and he's done that. In our budget, it identifies that he has so many retirees and so many he's bringing on. He makes the budget. He actually creates the budget. And he says, Commissioner, this is what I need. This is how many deputies. It's his matrix. Again, he has to bring the policy and say, based on my metrics and so many hundreds of thousands of, or how many people, we don't have 100,000, but it was about, well, yeah, we have 168,000. But how many every people in Waldorf, about 40-some thousand people in Waldorf, this is how many deputies I'm going to need.
Okay, so this is something that this administration has done. I know the previous administrations have not.
Oh, this one has.
Okay, all right. So
this one has.
I commend y'all for that. So, well, we're almost near the end, but I just want to talk about one more thing, and your response to COVID. What, in your opinion, was one of the most taxing things you had to deal with?
And COVID?
As a commissioner.
So, oh my gosh. What was taxing to see people die? And there was nothing we could do because we knew nothing, we very little. We had a health department that knew nothing about this disease. We work very closely with that health department to find out what can we do here. And we had staff jumping in. We gave all the assistance that we need at the health department. This was all new to us. So, and then the not knowing how and what, or who or what will be impacted and what the outcome is going to be. If you got it, where you're going to die. If you got it, what's this? Do you have elderly people? You gotta be very careful, because you can't be around people with COVID, because I have elderly parents. So I had to be very careful and making sure that I stepped very carefully and protect my elderly parents from getting it, because it was like literally almost a death sentence before we got vaccines. And that was another challenge, is and I knew it was new. It was a brand new, something new. People were scared. They didn't know what to think about it. And the vaccinations, didn't quite roll out as fast as we'd liked it to stop the deaths that we were, acquiring at the time. That was very heartbreaking and scary. We got family members dying. That was probably the worst time in a commissioner in a commissioner that you could be a commissioner. But it was called perseverance.
I think it was just bad for everybody. It's
coming together, yes.
Yeah,
but even to be in a position that you have to actually run a county, regardless, whether you got people dying, but you still got to run a county. So the pivoting and the business is failing, and whether people are going to have food, that all of this was on our shoulders.
Yeah.
And we had to bring like I said, it's not that we all sat down and siloed and say, well, that's the health department's problem. Oh, that's that person, emergency services problem. Oh, that's that. No, it was all of our problems. It was all of the late evenings, the calls, the meetings, the late meetings, the emergency meetings, to say funding, emergency funding. We were pulling money anywhere and everywhere we can to help senior homes, people's homes, people sit-ins, the sick-ins, you name it, overcrowded hospitals, you name it, in every one of in the schools, and every one of these people was on a call with us constantly, regularly. There was one point it was daily, but we never stopped. We never ever stopped, and that's why I say when it comes to work, please, people, please. This commissioner showed up and did the work that's needed to bring where we are today, to make sure this county is where we are today. And now we got vaccinations, so glad about that. So I'm proud. I'm proud of it.
All right, this is actually my last question. So, I posed this question to all the commissioner candidates and all of the Board of Education candidates. I'm just going to read it as I have it. If you are currently employed, can you briefly explain the formal arrangement you have with your employer that will allow you to perform the duties of an elected office that pays approximately $50,000 courtesy of the Charles County taxpayer?
Okay.
Basically, how are you able to manage both based on your current situation?
You said manage both. I'm sorry, what both are you talking about?
Your profession and this. There's commission.
Okay, so as a person experienced at retirement age, believe it or not, yay. As a person that right, I know. As a person that a few more years that I can officially kind of withdraw Social Security, but that's okay, But as a person that have family and have a husband, I would not be able to survive off a $50,000 job. I have a business, and that business allows me the flexibility to maneuver and work a full-time commissioner job. This is not a part-time. People, this is not a part-time job. I don't know where that came from and how that actually existed. Actually, I requested for it to be changed, but again, we have boards. We have a board that decided that we're going to stay part-time. I tell people I have a title that's part-time. I have an income that's part-time, but I work full-time. So that's why the salary is insignificant when you're talking about the work that you have to put into this job. It is not a part-time job. because you have to show up. You have to be there for your constituents. You have to be there for the cause. I have to put, when I get a call, well, even with someone with that has a child that needs a coat, that call, I can't say, oh, well, gee, sorry, can't help you. I have to make those phone calls. I have to get that person to the right resources. I have to provide those resources. I have come out of my pocket to provide a baby with clothes, a baby with a coat, a man and a baby together, provide housing. I paid for hotels for them to stay in, to transition them to the resources they need, because it was a weekend situation. And again, you don't stop in this job. And if you're not, don't have your heart in it for this reason, for service, you're in the wrong job. These late nights, someone made a comment, oh, this commission worked 24 hours. You damn right I do. Okay, I don't sleep. Okay, so you darn right I do. I work not for the, and you know, family time, there is no family time. I hope I stay married after running these 4 years. Because again, there is no, but my husband's wonderful. He'll say, well, we don't have family time. And what little bit of time I do get with my family, I cherish and precious every moment of it, because this job is a job of service.
Yeah, and believe me, when I ran, I knew what the job description was.
Exactly.
I was an educator at the time. There's no way in hell, especially as a special educator, with my caseload, my IEPs, that I would have been able to do this. So, and I was even told that I would have to resign. I was in Virginia though, so I guess Maryland got a new set of laws or whatever. But that's a whole different story. That's a whole different story for a different day.
Right, different day, right there.
So we're gonna close out. Huh?
I do want to add something. When you talked about those properties, we do have something on the books for incentivizing people to fix up blighted properties, whether they rip them down, fix them up, and we incentivize them. And I even encourage them to possibly put them in senior housing, make senior housing out of them, because we got a population of seniors that need affordable housing. But what we do is incentivize them to stay. So we're not collecting really tax dollars off blighted properties. So what we do is incentivize them and maintain their property tax rate, even during the time that they are renovating the property. We will not raise it, and it will not go up for, I think, about 5 years. I believe it's 5 years during that process. And then it will be a gradual to go to the market rate, because you're not making money now. So we need to incentivize people to take these properties, fix them up, put them back in service, or use them for, they may change the little zoning code there for putting them into residential. But again, those are things that we are working with the community on. So I just want to add that in when we talk about properties that are not in use.
All right. So before we close, I'm not sure if you've seen my show. I do this word game where I have 7 words, and when I say the word, you just say what comes to mind. It can be one word, it can be one sentence, but as I'm talking, I'm going to put your information up here so people. I did that. Ooh, wrong one. There we go. I did that myself. All right. So you ready?
Well, I guess so.
All right. Start with the easy one. Charles County.
People.
All right. Lackey High School. Lackey High School.
Students.
Did you go to Lackey?
I went to McDonough.
Oh, okay. We're going to scratch that one out. McDonough High School.
Me.
Okay. Social media.
Overrated.
Youth.
Seeing them through success.
College of Southern Maryland.
My alma mater.
And commercial.
And commercial.
I guess
my commercial. I didn't know they were still running it, but I heard they were.
The beach.
I wish I had more time.
All right. And then the last one, Dallas Cowboys.
Yuck. Redskins. I mean, Washington team.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thank you for your time. Before we close, I always end I always ask this question. I don't know you. So why should I vote for Thomasina Coates? Or why should I vote for you to seek re-election?
Well, you know what, Derek? We talked about a lot tonight. All the reasons that we talked about tonight, and then some. I have a whole list of them on my website, votethomasinacoates.com. You want to know anything? I put all of these bullet points out there. I served 4 years. It didn't take 4 years for this county to get here. It's not going to take 4 years to undo it, but we are on the right track. I am on the right track of moving this county forward, even to the point where we are, I have been working with the senator to put a sports and recreational boys and girls club in Bryan's Road coming soon. So wait, it's coming soon. I think about the fall. So again, work hard for my community, from the community. I went to school here, went to Southern College, Southern Maryland, attended that, moved on to a higher education, master's degree, bachelor's and master's degree. I am qualified. I'm in the job. I know the job. I didn't just walk into this job overnight. I actually learned the job through mentorship, and again, feel like that I am qualified with experience and with proven results. So vote for me, Thomasina Coates, District 2. Right. And I appreciate your vote. I do not take it for granted, and will continue working hard for you.
All right. Well, we definitely appreciate you being on the show, Commissioner Coates.
Thank you, Derek.
And like every candidate, if there's anything that I can do to help with your platform, this is not a quote unquote endorsement, but I will be doing endorsements next week. Just let me know. And like anything, good luck on the campaign trails. I know I will see you as well as the rest of the candidates.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it.
You know what, Derek? I tell people, ask me, how's the campaign going? I'm like, hey, wonderful. When you're working commissioner, so put it in perspective. Again, I'm a working commissioner. All right, campaigning, wonderful, great, and all, but again, I'm still a working commissioner.
Yeah, it's hard to campaign and work.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
All right. Well, we definitely thank you. And
thank you so much. I appreciate you.
No
it was
problem.
a pleasure.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.